So back in our primitive days, we used to walk on all fours, and then we started walking on two legs. We started walking on two legs because we wanted a better vision. Because human beings started using their eyes a little too much. They started using their eyes for social communication. They started using their eyes to see things, and the special emphasis paid on eyes was very interesting. You can see that we started chasing foods or fruits that looked a particular color just so that we can chase them. They also helped us to see really far. So when we used to walk on all fours, we could not see much far. So then standing up erect would actually help you to see and have a better vision of places and things. Getting on 2 feet would also help you to use your hands, right? And that's one of the most beautiful abilities human beings develop, that we could use our hands to do intricate things. Because we were not at the top of the food chain, we were right at the bottom. Back in the day, in our primitive days, some animal has been killed, and we used to go there as scavengers. Thank you, Via. We used to go there as scavengers. After all the food is done, we used to eat the bones and the other shit that was there. And so we did not have any physical advantage over other animals. So we were right at the bottom. So when we started walking on two legs, we started using our hands. More than our hands, we started using our fingers and our thumb. And that gave us a lot of power over the animals. We could carve weapons now, we could do a lot of things. But one of the most interesting things that was happening simultaneously was psychological development. How? So when we started walking on two legs, the birth canals of human females started to shrink. And as it started to shrink, a lot of women started dying. Just imagine like a big fetus coming out of your vagina. It's just not going to be a good idea. And so what happened was, women who gave birth prematurely were had an advantage in surviving than those who were giving regular normal births according to those times. And so we started birthing babies that were still undeveloped, physically undeveloped, or who had little heads. And as soon as that baby comes out and is not completely formed physically, we had societal structures that were around to support the child. So, you know how there is this saying that it takes a whole village to raise a child? It does. So, a kid is born, immature kid, physically immature kid is born, and then there are social structures and social societies, right, to try to raise the child. How does the society raise the child, right? We have rituals, we have religious rituals, we have mystic rituals that are done when a child is born. There is a protocol that is followed. Those protocols were set by other people, obviously, to just so that we can live longer or we can have better human beings on this earth. This made human babies very susceptible to society, to social ideas. We can also call them memes, right? Because memes are nothing but cultural units that evolve. Like how, when it comes to physical units, it's genes that evolve. In the psychological realm or cultural realm, it is the memes that evolve. Now, memes could be the way you dress, memes can be fashion, it evolves. It can be tonality of people, it can be dialect people have, it can be tone, it can be accents people have. Those are all memes, and they are also subject to evolution, just like our physical bodies are. And so a child is born immature, and the social structures, the child starts to imbibe the social structures, and then we construct a complete psychological reality for the child to live in, because we perceive the world, the objective world, in a low resolution image. So you imagine, like, if the world, the thing in itself, it is but it is like at 720p. So then the way we perceive it, it's gotta be in 144p, because we are not seeing everything, every single pixel that is in there. We only see what we want from it. So you imagine, right? Like you come across a new brand of clothes, and then you see that brand everywhere. Why does that happen? Because that brand has always been around, but now that the idea is in your head, your mind has a purpose or some new information. So then it's going to find that information around. So this means that the world by itself is high resolution, and then your perception is a low resolution image of it. So it's like a map, and then this map is used to navigate our actions and navigate what are we going to do, or navigate sometimes our thoughts and feelings, and navigate our decision making, for example, right? So a child is born immature, like a plastic, and then it's not like a plastic, like a clay, and then is molded by these ideas that have been generated and that were there before the child was conceived, or even maybe even when the parents were conceived, or grandfathers or grandparents were conceived. And then those social structures influence the way this person is going to live their life. So we we pay attention, like what separates, not separates actually, what makes human being a very complicated animal. We look at animals and we happily assume that they are running completely on instincts. They are. And when it comes to human beings, we talk about we have a conscious choice and conscious efforts that we make, and we are separate from animals. Some might even go as further to say that we are not animals at all. So here is my case against that. I think that we are born with a fundamental. We are born with a physical body, right? So an immature baby comes to the world, and then that physical body is heavily influenced by the societal ideas that are around, and then the physical body develops in accordance to those societal ideas. So we can't really say that there is a difference between the biological and the social, because those two are very intricately woven together. Because you imagine, we talk about nature versus nurture. What is nurture if not, is nurture not manipulated by nature? Like what genes you have, that's what kind of perception you're going to have of the world, influenced by environment. But then we see these exceptions that are around. Okay, talk about the rule, right? Nurture there exists, but we have to mention that it is the rule. It doesn't define the whole human spirit anyway. And so nature and nurture, no particular difference between both of them. They are pretty much the same thing. We have made, again, functional differences just so that we can separate something and then understand it as as individual units. But we should not forget, and I don't think we do, that those things are not autonomous. They are not free from each other. They completely depend on each other. And so human being is a complicated animal, because those societal ideas, we can also imagine them as myths. We can imagine them as, the rituals we engage in. They create a basis that all of us use to launch ourselves. And by launching, I mean to try to come up with actions that we want to commit. The emotions we attach to those actions as well. We can be pride, it can be uh, guilt, it can be shame, it can be anything. And so that is what happens. And then by the time a person is like 11, approximately speaking, right, roughly speaking, by the time a person is 11, then the person starts to develop some kind of awareness of themselves. You imagine why teenagers have a lot of self-esteem issues, right? It is because now suddenly they are aware, and now they are suddenly aware that they exist, and suddenly they are aware of some kind of social hierarchy that is around them, and then they start to compare themselves. And that's going to be problematic, because all of the, we can call it conditioning, or I would like to call it creation of a human being, by the time they become 11, they become aware of all of that, and that causes problems in them. But does it really cause problems in them, right? Like in the long run, are these problems really problems, or just problems to be solved, right? These are not problems uh, to be getting eaten by. These are not dragons that cannot be slayed. And this is something we all realize, right? By the time everybody is like in their 30s, hopefully, they figure out that most of the things they thought as teenagers did not matter. It's not even that really. Like somebody goes to a college, and then somebody goes to universities, and the whole perspective shifts there as well, because they start to have some kind of a social environment that is again, influencing their biology. So, it's it's very interesting when we start to see human beings as that, when we start to see human beings as a complete combination of societal ideas, and the biological things they were born with. So how there is a phrase, right? Like, there are cards you are dealt with and you have to just play with them, right? It's such a beautiful metaphor, because you are born with a biology, and then through your actions and through the societal ideas, you stretch those genetics that you were given with. To believe that I was born with these genetics and this is the highest potential of these genetics is fucking stupid, because they can always be stretched. And you know what's the proof that they can always be stretched? The proof is that you go back 5 years, you're not the same person at all, right? Even like 1 year, you're not the same person. So it means like the genetics do stretch, and the utmost limit of those genetics, I don't think can be perceived at all. It just simply cannot be, because the awareness of the body is bigger, way bigger than what the mind can comprehend. And forget what the mind can comprehend, what human beings can experience, right? And be aware of that presence. It's just too vast. So you just can never go and achieve the limits of your body. It's just not possible. There was a case somewhere that a pregnant lady, I don't know if it was a pregnant lady or a young mother, but she had a little kid, and the little kid was about to get run over by a car, and she just lifted the whole fucking car up. She was a skinny lady, but she just did. It just reminds us that, our body keeps a lot of things in reserve. And why does it keep things in reserve? Because our body is still trying to operate from a survival mechanism. So it's trying to sustain, or trying to save as much energy that it can. Because if you imagine, like, if you wanted to exert as much strength as you want to, and your body has, you would just die, because all your calories will go out and you will just die. So to protect you, right, because your body is like a bank, it's like a reservoir of energies. It's going to send like some energy for you to digest food, it's going to send some energy for you so you can think, you can move, you can run. But if you exhaust all of it, you're just going to die. And that's why you just can never experience the whole of it. But you can push it little by little, right, through reps and sets. You can just do that, because that is also possible. So the pessimism attached to the human spirit is bullshit. And it's bullshit because change is inevitable, and change doesn't mean like better shit is going to happen. It just means like some other thing is going to happen. And that is why thinking about things with the phrase that the cards you were dealt with, for example, right, those cards can be bullshit. You can have like great reasons to believe that they are, because they always usually are. But then to believe that those cards cannot be stretched or played with, that's gotta be very stupid to believe. And that is what causes most of our misery. Our misery comes from the idea that good change is impossible. And we should just realize that the nature of our mind is to simply, I mean, fundamentally speaking, right? the the way we usually function, generally speaking, the way we usually function, the mind's goal is so that the body can survive. That's why it thinks about status. That's why it thinks about, you can imagine, it thinks about how to be cool, because if you're cool, you're going to survive. This is what the mind believes, right? If you have some kind of dominance over the world, that then you're going to survive. This is what the mind believes. But mind is illusory, and mind sometimes also thinks that this is all I got. But what is I there, right? Is I the mind, or is I the body? Because the body's got way more than we think it does, because it can sustain a lot. Human lungs can sustain a lot of cigarettes as well. Human lungs can sustain living in Delhi, for example. It can sustain everything. Human can also sustain living in the Holocaust. So all the other shit just kind of seems to be really off. It's not that above in the suffering hierarchy. And the stretching nature of genetics is also like proved in empirical science, right? Like neuroplasticity, it's not bullshit, it's a fact. And it's possible. What about genetic elasticity? Is genetic elasticity not possible? Can we just sit on our asses and believe that this is the highest stretch of our genetics? It's just not simply possible. And for people who say that it's the mind that stretches the body, that's not correct. It's the will that does. And will can be separate from our mind, because mind is like mind is a field of emotions and thoughts that run together, because they want to predict what is the best way to live life, and then also like what's the best way you can live. So that's how the difference between ideal and real self comes, right? Because the mind is thinking in two dimensions, where I want to be and where I am, so that you can decide on how to move forward or decide on your direction, for example. But but if the will is weak, right, if the will is weak, then you're not going to go on that journey at all. You might sit and just fantasize that you're already your ideal and just enjoy your life the way, you know, the way our generation does, for example, because we have so many distractions. We can just sit at home, listen to some music, do our, weird job, and then just feel like we have made it because we are experiencing that ideal, and that is it. And I think I've said this before, right? Like the instinct to believe in God is not to believe in like a supernatural entity, but fundamentally that instinct is to believe in an ideal. Because because God, like the best definition of God is that God is the highest ideal, right? But what are ideals? Ideals are something that sets your direction. You're going to move towards an ideal, but then your ideals are only as good as the actions they inspire, because if your ideals are inspiring bullshit actions, then those ideals are bullshit as well. This gives us human beings this kind of power, that we can do good to our ideals, right? Like ideals are not above us. The actions we commit, that is what's gonna decide the quality of our ideals. And then also, like once you achieve an ideal, you gotta go for a higher ideal, right? That's just what it is. Because I don't know the terminology of all this, but in like our Indian myths, it's also mentioned that there are levels above Swarg. So that's gotta be crazy that there are levels above Swarg. And we just don't pay homage to the cards we are dealt with. We don't do that at all. And this is why, like, you imagine we live in a society where being harmless is a virtue. Oh, this person is very peaceful, right? But that, when we use the adjective peaceful for somebody, that person is usually not peaceful. That person is just harmless. That person can't do shit. That person is not aggressive, not violent. And why is that a virtue? Do we want like harmless people around? Like, what can harmless people really do? Nothing. They can just sit on their ass. That's what we do. Why? Because we incentivize kids as soon as they are born through our societal ideas. We incentivize kids to be harmless, to be quiet, to shut the fuck up. And kids who shut up are better than kids who yap a lot, or kids who are trouble, or kids who, put their own ideas out, or kids who say that, hey, I don't like this. So those kids are fucking stupid according to the ideas that are around. But if we really pay attention, like what kind of people do we need? Do we need harmless people, or do we need dangerous people who are in control, right? Because that's the you imagine like you imagine the idea that men who rape, right? Men who rape are weak individuals. They do not have anything in control. I don't think anything is working for them. They are weak people, should be out. But the way we take away those people, the way we get rid of weakness, is by supporting strength. And why do we support weakness? Why do we support like pitting somebody? Why do we support, we can say, why do we support like negating life? Because we do support all of that. And so being harmless is never a good idea. How is it? Like being harmless, you're never gonna protect shit. And human beings are territorial, are they not? Because we are also animals. So how are you gonna protect your territory? People are just gonna come and take your territory. And you're being harmless because you're peaceful is bullshit. And again, I'm going to repeat the same quote by Nietzsche, where he said that we laugh at the wildlings who think they are virtuous because they don't have any claws. You don't have any knives. How are you going to kill people? You just are not. And you look at your weakness and your incapacity as your virtue, as something good you have, and then you feel pride about it. How bullshit is that? Because because being weak does nobody any justice, and it is not good for you. It's not good for other people. The aim of talking about this was this, right? You look at human beings, when we are born, we are completely clay, societal ideas on us. So then those societal ideas are very real. They are not just thoughts. They change your biology. So if they change your biology, we should sit down and really look at those societal ideas. and try to change the way we think about these things so that we don't have weakness at all and we have strength, because we have to aspire. And it's not just about you surviving 100 days, it's more about you thriving for 100 days, because the idea is like, are you moving away from a thing or you're moving towards something? Because you can move towards an ideal, but you can't move away from anything, because there's always got to be you. And this is what the message is.